Okay, so you're joining us directly after the ClubCISO vote that we've had here at the Bulgari Hotel in Knightsbridge, and I'm welcomed and joined by my esteemed colleague, Alan Jenkins, and I think this evening, it's fair to say, has been probably a little bit different to previous years because we've had, I think, some change in the membership this year. We've had some new members, and that's given us some different results, perhaps than we would have expected, around some new themes that some of our fellow CISOs are thinking about. Have there been any particular themes for you that have stood out this year opposed to previous years? Because I know you've attended many of the ClubCISO live votes.
I was just trying to think about it. I think this is my fourth, actually. So yes, I guess in that sense, I've attended 2/3. Is that, I think, something of that order? So I think the two things leapt out at me this morning, or this evening. One was the 0 on the resilience and response. That struck me as odd. But the more positive one was the switch more to taking security graduates and apprentices. I'd seen that in my previous organisation, but actually I've seen that more generally. So that's not one-off. And to see that reflected in the stats, I found quite reassuring. Because we do have this conversation about there's a skills gap. No, I'm not sure that it's a skills gap. I think we've had to change our approach to no longer asking for 5 years experience and recognising that, no, if I can get that talent, that enthusiasm early, I can actually mould them into what I need. And I've seen that myself in interactions with other clients.
So I think there was a really interesting point around graduates having this purist mindset. So they come into organisations perhaps where there's been a long-standing CISO and they come in from a university background. Have you found that in your experience? Have you found you've had to almost show them reality and go, sometimes we're going to have to win, sometimes we're going to lose, in that balance?
Let's call it, I'd rather call it naivety in a sense, because they've not worked in a reality situation before. But I've probably changed my approach to them, whereas 10 years ago I said, no, they're no use to me at all. Because of the wider challenge as to how to get people into the team because of the demands, I'm talking about IBM now, IBM embraced that and turned it as a positive, not from an exploitation of the youngers because they're cheap, but no, harnessing talent before it's become jaded, set in the ways. And turning that into a positive. So to see others reflecting that was good.
And do you think that this is because universities have now are offering more cybersecurity related courses, or is it that actually we've changed our requirements and we're now saying, well, people that come from a development or computer science background from university are just as useful as people that have done traditional pure play cybersecurity degrees, if such a thing exists?
So I think it's that hybrid. I think there are definitely more courses and therefore more security-oriented graduates. But I think it's also, we've widened our net in terms of what we go for, recognising that if somebody is a developer, DevOps, getting security into DevOps, is it harder to train DevOps into a security person, or is it easier to train security into DevOps person? And I think we finally recognise it's the latter. If you can to some extent change their focus and get security more in so that we can properly do the security by design. So I think that the candidates volume has increased, but I think we've changed our approach to them as well.
And do you think this is fixing other issues that we've had and talked about in the community around things like diversity, or is that still a persistent problem for us as an organisation and an industry?
I'd rather call it an opportunity, but I'd also say diversity isn't just about getting more females into the team. It's getting untapped talent from wherever it's not been before. Broadening our search for talent away from just robbing from networks. Because we now recognise it's not just about infrastructure. I mean, the stat that struck me as odd was, I think it was 13% of us were getting reported that we had best candidates out of HR. I'm fascinated by that, because did they mean that's where they came through in terms of a channel, or had they really robbed HR people into security? I'd like to know more about that.
I think that's really interesting, because getting people from those kinds of backgrounds, we end up getting some skills around communication and other people-related skills that we perhaps are not able to get high quality talent from some of these traditional sources. Has there been any other surprises in any of the kind of results that you've seen this evening that perhaps we haven't seen in other years, around maybe some of the new themes that we've talked about around security orchestration was mentioned this evening, containerization, bug bounties was quite a big piece of the discussion.
We certainly haven't had a discussion on bug bounties that I recall before, so that's definitely a change over the 6-7 years. But I think also 6-7 years ago, bug bounties were very few and far between. So there's that reflection of evolution, I suppose.
I think there was a lot of debate in the room that actually many organisations didn't feel that they would get value from them, and there was a small subset of organisations that felt they got huge value from them. But there was definitely the wake of distance between both communities, both parts of the community.
And that might reflect the fact that the audience doesn't really have vendors in it, because the vendors should really be having the bug bounty in. The end user base that's really in this room, where's their bugs coming from? Their bugs are coming from whatever they've used most of the time. So that, I thought that was quite interesting. But the point that was made, remembering Chatham House rule, that to do it properly is £50,000 to £70,000 to do it properly, irrespective of scale. That's an interesting one. Don't just jump on the bandwagon because it's the latest fad. I thought that was a good salutary point.
So all in all, you've got value from this evening, and you would recommend other CISO colleagues to come along to this kind of event to learn more about what their colleagues are doing and benchmark themselves.
Yes, because we don't do it enough actually. We do, as an industry, I felt this for a while, but we're starting to see people, okay, they are still exploiting the Chatham House rule, but sharing what's worked and what hasn't worked. The call from one of the brethren that I wouldn't necessarily recommend a supplier, but I would tell you not to touch that supplier with a barge pole. That's good to see, because we need that. In fact, I was only asked yesterday, where do I take most notice from? I take most notice from a peer reference. Because I don't believe necessarily the sales pitch. So the peer reference for me is one of my most valuable assurances.
Okay, well that's great, thank you. So you've joined us just with a wrap-up video here at our 6th annual ClubCISO live vote. Thanks very much for watching, and of course feel free to comment on Twitter at ClubCISO, and we look forward to your feedback and comments, and see you next year hopefully.
Thank you.